Welcome, everyone. We still have people coming in, so we'll give it a minute, Gangapriya, and then we will.
Certainly.
Yeah. Yay. All right. I think we should start. I'm hoping that all of you are having a really nice afternoon. We certainly are going to, because we have Gangapriya with us today to talk about something that I'm sure all of us are quite curious about and passionate about in some ways, because there is this large organizational shift from wanting authoritative leaders to wanting leaders who are able to work with you without really necessarily exerting that authority. With their influence, with their ability to bring people together in the way they are engaging with you and empowering you. And that's a really interesting topic. And Gangapriya is really somebody who, in her own way, has done that through the years and is a strong advocate for it. And she really feels that this is something that is not just something to talk about, but is actually practically possible. Gangapriya is the MD at Ford Motor Company's Business Service Solution. She's been with the organization for close to now 14 years. Interestingly, she's the first non-expatriate woman to lead the organization. Gangapriya, am I right about that? Yes. And she's actually taken a lot of effort in making that workplace, modernizing the human resource function in the workplace in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belongingness and wellness. And she also is so personally interested in that she's also training to be a coach so that she can further focus on people's well-being. The organization itself has been recognized as one of the top 3 great places to work at and one of the top 50 great places to work at for women under Gangapriya's leadership. And outside of her work, she also has served on the board of the NHRD. She serves on the board of a school, Gangapriya, that works with children from underprivileged backgrounds. So she constantly is looking at giving back. And I know personally that whenever I've reached out to Gangapriya to contribute to the learning and development of women leaders, of other leaders, etc., she's always gracefully accepted and the opportunity to share her knowledge, her wisdom, and her advice with people who are really looking to grow in their roles. So we are really grateful to have her here today, and really looking forward to hearing from you, Gangapriya. How do you so strongly advocate, and how have you practically made this possible in your own career? Has it always been easy to really lead with influence, to really get to the outcomes that you want as a leader for your organization, for your people? But before we start there, we also want to know a little bit about your own leadership journey. What does it mean to you? Who are you as a leader, as a person, etc. So over to you, and thanks so much for being with us here.
Yeah, thank you, Shushmita. I hope you're able to hear me clearly.
Yes.
Yeah. So, very, very happy to be here and associate with ODA on this series that you have put together. It was a no-brainer for me to say yes when you approached me. It's an organization that I follow very closely. I'm quite fascinated by the work that you do. So, really happy to be here. Yeah, I think leadership for me is an idea that has sort of evolved over time. If I really look back, I was as a student. I mean, even very early in my childhood, I remember that I was an elected leader of the school, the primary school that I went to. At that time, of course, it sort of was a matter of great prestige and privilege, and it gave you some authority which many others in your class did not have. It gave you access to things and people that many others didn't have. So it was a sort of privileged kind of position. Um, and then, of course, over the years, the idea of who is a leader sort of changed. And certainly in my corporate life, I can tell you that there have been many people who I worked with who sort of helped me to sort of refine the idea of what it means to be a leader. And I think, I mean, it's still an evolving idea for me. But I think I can point out one particular boss that I had whose leadership style really influenced me. A person who was my boss when I worked with a consulting firm. He was somebody who sat beside us and worked along with us. He did all the things that we did as his team members. He knew the work that we were doing as well, if not better than what we all did, and always had something to add to it. And he almost seemed like a first among equals, and that's the kind of impression that he gave to me. And that was a style that I really liked, and I aspired to be like that. Um, he, in a sense, was also the person who sort of brought a shift in my thinking about what it meant to be a leader. All through my growing years, leadership positions gave you power. It gave you authority. It gave you visibility. It gave you the ability to do a lot of things that others could not do. It gave you access to resources and the ability to use resources in a particular ways that only you had. But somewhere along the line, I felt that here was a totally different way of looking at leadership, which I really sort of liked. It was about getting work done by working along. It was by showing us that there is a better path ahead. It was by holding our hands and taking us along. It was about not really imposing yourself as an individual or as a boss. Um, so it was in a sense different, and it was, sometimes you also need bad bosses to teach you what good leadership is. So I had just come out of a situation where I had a boss whose only conversations were about, that he was a boss and that it was his way of doing things that all of us had to follow. And that he would never lose an opportunity to say that he was the boss. Yeah, so it was a contrast, and it taught me what I didn't want to be as a leader, and also it taught me what I'd prefer to sort of adopt being a leader. And then, of course, being in HR, and as you go along that path, you realize that um, the why of working, why increasingly young people come to work and what meaning do they see in work. All of that required us to recalibrate what our styles of leadership uh, would need to be. So that was, again, I would say, another enabler for my being able to think a little differently about leadership. Because these are young people coming into the workforce who are questioning the idea of authority coming from a position. Yeah, they are questioning the idea of, hierarchies. They are people who are sort of saying, why should I do something just because somebody is asking me to do it? And they wanted to see real reason for why they needed to do what they needed to do. So I thought that was another reason for why thought that, using the power of influence and being the leader would perhaps be a better approach for me as a leader to adopt in the way I sort of showed up as a leader. Now, in all of this, I would say that, it's not that you don't use authority from your position and the power that it gives you. There are certain circumstances where, that has to sort of come into play, and there's no two ways about it. Yeah, and we need to know exactly when that needs to be used. And there's a rationale and reason for why it exists in that form. But for most other things, I do believe that, with influence, with the ability to work along with people, I think we have a better model of driving the kind of outcomes that you want to achieve as a leader. Yeah, long answer to your question.
No, that's a lovely answer also. What actually came about when you were talking about this is there's also this demand that you talked about. Now people are expecting differently, right? People are expecting a leader to work alongside you. Is this something that is new in the sense that there's a lot of conversation around Gen Zs not really, warming up to authority, but warming up to this style of leadership? Has it have you, in the course of your leadership, seen a change in the demand for leadership, or was there more acceptance of authority earlier on, even when people did not, or did people like authority before? And is the shift because the world is changing, or did people always have a problem with authority but quietly accepted it? And now they're more verbal about it with the younger crowd coming in. What have you seen?
Pushpita, I think it's a very good question. And, if I look at me as an individual, I have always revolted about against authority. In fact, even at home, I just loved rebelling, and my parents took most of the brunt of it. No, if they said I had to do something, I had to actually find just the opposite thing to do. That was really the way I did live through most of my at least teenage years, and maybe even later college days. Whatever they told me I was not meant to do was really for me a trigger to do it, just to see what would happen if I did it. Yeah, and what is the worst that can go wrong with it. So I did sort of take a lot of chances on some of those things. So the idea of authority was something that did not sit well with me also. But at the same time, I think I was also from a generation which did not question authority as much. You know, we sort of said, yes, we have to follow it. We can't ask too many questions. We slyly did a lot of things on the side. Yeah. And if somebody told us that this is the way we had to do something, we would say, okay, that's the way they've told us to do it, so might as well do it. So that is certainly how at least I sort of grew up. If my boss said something, very often I would not even sort of uh, react to it. And I would say he's asking or she's asking me to do it. I jolly well do it. I don't think I have a choice if I have to be in this organization. I think it has changed a lot for youngsters. One, they have options to walk out if they don't agree with something. They sort of voice their opinions a lot more openly. Yeah. They show their um, opposition or their discomfort with following orders in other ways. Yeah, and for them, working in an organizational context is not necessarily the most attractive or the most exciting thing to do. So, in a lot of ways, though it is really their time, and we need to adjust to what the new and emerging generation is uh, wanting to see in terms of a workplace. I mean, just look at our own lives, maybe older people never even sort of um, opposed anything that parents said. Nowadays, we allow children to sort of voice their opinions. And if they have a different point of view, we allow them to sort of speak their mind. So it is a different and changing world. And I do believe that leadership styles do need to change to allow for those kind of uh, changing ways of living and the emerging trends that we are seeing as far as generations are concerned. I do see that there is certainly a requirement to be do that.
Yeah, to adapt to what's emerging. Uh,
Yes.
Earlier, you were talking also about the fact that there are spaces where authority is required,
Correct.
but largely there is a canvas where you can really work without authority and really
Yes.
with your influence. What is at the core of the ability to influence? And there are so many different stakeholders that you work with day in and day out. What is it at the core of it, and what are the nuances where it becomes different for different uh, type of people you're engaging with?
Yeah, so actually, in my mind, leading with influence really means that you are not leading from a position of power and authority, and you're not exerting control because of the power and authority that's vested in the position that you're seated in. In a lot of ways, I believe that leading through influence also allows for a democratization of leadership. And when I say democratization and leadership, anybody can be a leader through the power of through using influence. You don't have to be seated in a power position. So if you're somebody in a team who knows more, yeah, you can be a leader in that team from the perspective of the knowledge, understanding that you bring of that job to the table. Yeah. So I believe that this approach to leadership really helps everyone to shine as a leader in different ways. So you may be somebody who has relationships that you have built. Yeah. And you use and leverage those relationships to make things happen, which is very important in an organizational context to see things move forward, to make objectives happen, and things like that. Yeah. So you're leading through the power of using your relationships. Yeah. And that becomes the basis on which, you drive influence in your team. So it's no longer an idea about a hierarchy, which is just based on the boxes that you have in an organizational chart. But you say that, each one brings different aspects which they use to influence the outcomes that the team needs to achieve. Yeah, and how is it that you're able to do that? In my mind, leading by influence also means that, you lead by example. Yeah, you walk the talk. You use your own personal, you build and use your own personal credibility so that people will sort of listen to you, will follow you rather than, by the title that you hold. You communicate so well with everyone in your team that they imbibe the kind of passion that you have for the outcomes that you want to achieve. And that sort of drives them to achieve the objective. And it's a collaborative way in which the team comes together to deliver on the goal. So you become just one of them. Yeah. I would say a little as the taller person in the team, but everybody has a role to play. Yeah, and everybody is galvanized into action primarily because of how you are setting the agenda for the team. And not just because, you're giving orders, instructions, and they have to follow them without having a choice. It's an open space, it's a transparent space. You give time, a space for people to sort of air what their concerns, objections are. And together you help to sort of drive what you need to drive. It's a different way. And Shushmita, I always say that our leadership competencies were all built based on successful male leaders. Yeah. I don't know if there is much, and I know ODA perhaps has access to some of the research, but I don't know if competency frameworks for leaders were built based on what successful women leaders brought to the table. And I do believe that a lot of this is showing up many times in women leaders rather than in men. And it's not to say it is a gender thing, it's a different way that in which leadership manifests. Perhaps one that is not documented much because that has not necessarily been the standard way of leading or the most common way of leading.
Yeah, as you're rightly saying, Gangapriya, I think even the number of leaders who have taken on those senior roles in terms of, women taking those up, have, I think it's just rising now, right? And earlier women who managed to be on those top positions also had to behave in a certain way, to fit in the leadership
Correct.
expectation that was from them. So change a little bit of their authentic self into what they were expected to be in order to be able to survive in their role. So I think, yeah, so I think that I think what you're bringing up is a great point, that there needs to be more study, because I think there are a lot more women who are authentically now being themselves in their leadership roles. That space is opening up. And to be able to study that and bring that angle into what it means in terms of leadership is important. When you were talking
Sushmita,
about,
I also don't want it to be a gender thing because I
yeah,
think men
absolutely.
also drive leadership by influence. I mean, you can come across many leaders who use the power, many male leaders who use the power of influence to drive it. And you see the counter also. There are many women who use power and authority to drive the kind of thing.
Yeah,
So it's not a gender thing, but I think there is a new model or a new concept of leadership that perhaps you see when women show up as good leaders, where they don't necessarily adopt the standard norms of
authority.
what it means to be a leader.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that there is a different way to deal with it. Yeah.
yeah. And that avenue opening up has given all genders to access that
Yes,
side of them
absolutely.
and bring that to the
Absolutely.
leadership, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were also saying, Gangapriya, about influencing, because you are influencing through your relationship, how you are coming across, how are you bringing people together, etc. And one constant um, challenge that I hear from many of the leaders that I work with is, where's the time for it, right? We have such short deadlines. Everybody needs to know what they need to contribute. Everybody needs to bring in their best. Where is the time to build deep, trustful relationships? We just don't have that kind of environment. So, what is your take on that? Does time play a role?
I mind because, we spend so much time with each other. Yeah. And every interaction is an opportunity to build a relationship. Yeah. And my association with my colleague is not just for work. Yeah, it's also to sort of as a human being. Yeah, who has a family, who has personal ambitions, who has challenges. I mean, it's also an individual, isn't it? So if I start looking at my colleagues as individuals, I'm trying to build relationships with them on an ongoing basis. And I do realize that the power of relationship is far stronger than what my position and the authority that I have from the position can do. And it's been proven time and again for me as an individual that for the relationship, people are willing to do a lot more than what they would do and feel happy for it rather than sort of be driven by, somebody saying that this is my instruction, go and follow it. They may do it, but they may feel bogged down. They may feel that they've been used. They may feel that this is unnecessary. I wouldn't have done it under normal circumstances. A lot of negative association with that kind of a thing. I don't have a choice. So these are all the kinds of things that may go with instructions that you may give. But relationships, typically, you tend to go out of your way to deliver. Yeah, and therefore, any conversation for me is a relation building conversation. I don't think I have worked. I mean, but it is reciprocal. It has to be reciprocated. That's also there because a lot of people may not want me to intrude into their personal selves. They may not want to sort of show up. So it also is about creating a psychologically safe space where they can be who they are and bring their real self to work. Yeah, that's when you can build a relationship that's based on trust, which is based on mutual appreciation of good, bad, ugly of each other. Yeah, and you can be who you are in that relationship. Yeah, so I do believe that if you're coming into an office just to sort of do the work that you do and not build relationships with people, it will take you to some distance, but I don't know if it will really enable you or whoever your team members are to really enjoy uh, that circumstance, that situation. Yeah, and what is it when you say building a relationship? How much time will it take? I mean, it's about, having some curiosity about the person's life. Yeah, and it's not like I'm sort of poking in and understanding a lot about what's happening in their life. It's just about asking how they're doing, how are things at home, how are things, remembering a lot of things. I think a lot of people do a fabulous job in maintaining great relationships at work. And so it's not an extra thing, it is just part of how they show up at work.
I suppose the part of that fear, Gangapriya, is that people feel like if they have that kind of a deeper relationship, will they be taken for granted? When there are situations when I have to put my foot down, get things done, would that come in the way of it? I think that's one of the fears. But on the same line, I want to ask you this question also. Have you ever, in maintaining this uh, power of influence in, being a leader, have you ever faced situations where you've been told a no? Because that's something a lot of leaders find difficult to say to people who they're reporting into. Have you had a situation where somebody said a no to you and it was really, you couldn't accept that no for whatever the situation was? And I mean, have you ever had a situation like that? And how did you manage it if you did, in the spirit of, not exerting your authority?
No, Shushmita, it's not like it's easy sale because,
Mm.
people may be there at work for different reasons and they may sort of be motivated by different things. So I can't expect everybody to sort of uh, be the same or expect the same kind of a situation at work. And I have had situations where people have said that it doesn't work and no relationship, not even position and authority have really worked. Yeah. And you just have to say that this is something that is a non starter. Yeah, this is not going to get me anywhere. And we may have to decide how are we going to deal with the situation. Yeah, they just sort of do exactly what they're asked to do, finish it, and then go back, which sometimes may be acceptable. Yeah, but sometimes they may not be even able to do that, and in which case you have to deal with that in different ways. Uh, but more often than not, when people say no, I have also noticed that it opens up opportunity for dialogue. Why no? Yeah. Is it a time thing? Is it a resource thing? Is it a capability thing? How can I, as a leader, sort of support you? Yeah. Or they're giving me some information that I don't know that enables me to reset my expectation of them. They say that, this will not work because of these reasons. And I know it because I'm very close to the job, which I may not have information about. Yeah. And which helps me to reset what I expect of that individual. Yeah. So I see those no's as opening up opportunities. And quite frankly, I think it's something that I would welcome because I have a bigger problem if they say yes, 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 and then go and then stumble and fail and all of that. But if they tell me that I mean, I'm not somebody who takes no for an answer, and I don't like them just saying no without really telling me why. Yeah, because I think it sort of helps me to recalibrate my expectations of them. It may be that I have to readjust the time that I'm giving them. It may be that I have to readjust the resources that I have to give them. It may help me to see the reality of the situation that they are in a little better so that I can be clear about, how I set expectations for them. So it um, helps me to help them more often than not.
Mm.
Now, if it is a no, 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 and then and they're not willing to even talk about it, then there's no way that I'll be able to manage in a situation, and I just have to take it that it's not going to work. But more often than not, I think and because saying no takes a lot of courage. Yeah, it takes a lot of preparation because it's not easy to say no when a boss, so-called boss, gives you something to do.
And as you rightly said, a lot of people say yes and then drag their feet because they
Correct.
didn't want to say yes. So that happens a lot. And
Yes.
as you rightly said, the saying no requires courage, and hearing a no also requires courage because it's
Absolutely. Absolutely.
tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Great.
Like they say, you don't want any surprises, isn't it?
Yes.
In all of these kinds of things, you don't want any surprises. You might as well be upfront, tell me what the issues and challenges are, and then together maybe we can find a solution.
Yeah. And I really appreciated what you said in terms of when there's a no, there's a possibility opens up for dialogue to find out
Correct.
why, and then paths may open up, which actually, helps navigate the situation. I
No,
think we should.
and, Sushmita, I think it's also very important to say that in accepting a no, it also means that you're saying you don't know everything.
Mm,
Yeah, and I think that is part of that influence that we're talking about. There is somebody who knows a lot more about that particular thing than you do, and they are using that influence on you. Yeah, as much as you're saying that, this is a relationship of trust where I can say yes, no, and somebody will listen to me and give me an opportunity to explain why I said no. Yeah, it just deepens that relationship based on trust.
yeah. So you also, in a sense, saying that if you want to influence, you also be open to influencing, being
Yes,
influenced.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great. Great. I'm going to open it up to the audience. I'm sure they have some questions for you as well. So if any of you, if you have a question for Gangapriya, please feel free to open your mic and ask Gangapriya. Santosh, I see you also there. And you usually have a question, so I'm also waiting for that. Your mic is closed.
I said, I don't have a question. Whenever I hear GP speaking, she has a way of sharing things which sound is just coming directly without any filtering. But when you listen to it, you know that that kind of a wisdom cannot happen without any filtering. So there is something that happens internally where very naturally flowing thoughts, she is able to put it in a saintly way. That's what I was listening to. Yeah.
Santosh, nice to have you here, and I'm no saint, I can tell you that. Yeah. No, but I'm increasingly sort of believing that some of the theories and expectations of leadership that I was taught and I grew up with are utter bunkum, if I may use that
Yeah.
term. Yeah. Because it served in a particular time and it served in a particular period.
Mhm.
Uh, it served for a particular context. I think the world is changing too fast, too dramatically for it to sort of remain relevant. And I don't think we are doing much to sort of show an alternate view of what it means to be a leader. And I think we have a great opportunity, like I said earlier, to make leaders of everyone, which is what I think a lot of young people want.
So anyone else has any questions? Okay. You can unmute yourself.
Hello, I'm audible, sir. Ma'am? Great. It was wonderful discussion, and really thank you so much for organizing such a discussion, ma'am. I just wanted to ask you, ma'am, you said very well that saying no is very difficult and one of the hardest word. Actually, I'm facing the same problem. I'm working as a head corporate relation in Devapatil B School, Pune. When there is a student and parent and industry and management, four people are around. Saying no to them is like a big task to me. Please guide me how to face such challenges.
Well, saying no sometimes is very difficult for me also. It's easier said than done. Um, yeah, I think sometimes when there's perfect clarity, it's easier to say no. When you know you can walk away from something and the consequences of walking away will be very minor, you can say no. There are many circumstances when you can say no very easily. it is really tough saying no. I don't know what my advice would be, but it's also dependent on how important it is to say no, to what extent it's going to impact you. Yeah, and what chances are you willing to take? So yeah, sorry, I don't have a direct answer for that.
I have a reflective question on that. So whenever I am not saying no, I'm saying yes. One. Then I ask this question. Whenever I say yes to something, I'm saying no to something else, which means I'm okay to say no. So my question to you is, by agreeing and saying yes, which are the areas that you are saying a no to yourself, which you seems to be okay with? So that's what you may want to check.
Hi, ma'am. This is Gunabharati joining from GTBC. It's been pleasure listening to you.
Nice.
Yeah. I just have one question. I mean, what is the best piece of advice you have received so far in your journey, right? I mean, I want to listen from you. I mean, best piece of advice which you would give to young leaders like me. I lead uh, engineers who are deputed in engineering design and bill of materials team. Around 60 members are working in various projects. So I would like to hear from you.
Don't know what is the best piece of advice that I have received, but for me, just reflecting on how I show up, I think has been the biggest way that I have seen I make the most improvement to myself. How did I show up? What did I say? Why did I say it? Did I come across this way? I think just that reflection is very important for me. And just one thing that I want to let you know is as you become senior, you get less authentic feedback as well from people. So you have to be a little careful when you get feedback. Mostly it'll be all praise. Don't get carried away by it. I think you have to be objective and you have to be reflective and you have to be truthful to yourself. I think only you can give yourself the best advice. That's my way of looking at it. And of course, I do have a small circle of people who do give me advice, who I listen to, and I trust them fully to be open and transparent and provide me with really objective feedback. As far as your leadership is concerned, I mean, I would say see yourself as a leader not because of the position that you occupy. If there is a way that you can lead, where you can take your team along with you and also get the best out of your team,
Yeah.
I think they will help you to go places.
Yeah. We are here to bring the best version of our team. We are not just
Absolutely.
individuals, we are representing multiple souls. And it's very important to be open to feedback and not just see the behavior, but the intention of the feedback. I mean, it may be harsh sometimes. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thanks for your feedback. Yeah. Signing off now. Thank you.
Thank you, Gunbharti. Anybody else who has a question for Gangapriya?
Hi, Sushmita, can
Yes, yes, Srinivas, please go.
Gangapriya, you touched upon it briefly. In fact, Sushmita had asked you about the Gen Z leaders or people from Gen Z who come into positions of responsibility or are looking for a position in a traditional company. And there's a cultural clash between the Gen Z and Gen X, or whatever you call it. And there are a lot of studies to corroborate that they are misfits, that they don't fit in, they don't get the culture working traditionally, that they're defiant of authority, as you spoke about. They don't easily give into authority, that they don't stick to a place, a workplace. They keep hopping every 6 months or a year or so. And generally, there's a bit of a chaos resulting out of this cultural clash. Now, there could be a lot of empirical evidence to either argument, whether it's productive or non-productive, whether it yields the desired outcomes, or whether the so-called Gen Z have really created something of value in terms of the traditional forms of big companies or whatever. We often talk about startups where the Gen Z shine, and we talk about more the success stories rather than the failures. Now, how do we reconcile? Because we're also dealing with our own children who are probably in the Gen Z category. So they speak a different language of sensibility, a different language of comprehension, and all of that. How do we reconcile? Is it all necessary for a reconciliation? Is it necessary at all in the first place? How do we deal with it? Or is it a problem? How is it that it's the responsibility rests on us, the non-Gen Z generation in leadership?
Yeah. So I just as I said that, women maybe women leaders are redefining what it means to be a leader. I think Gen Z are also redefining what it means to be a leader. In fact, I don't think Gen Z are enamored by being in positions of leadership just for the power and authority. That's my sense. In fact, they have pretty poor opinion of people in leadership from the conversations that I have, because they associate leadership with certain behaviors and characteristics that doesn't work for them. And of course, many of them are really trying to break all kinds of hierarchies. It's sort of been hierarchies in whatever form are what they think is the reason for a lot of the issues that we have in today's world. And they are redefining the way we look at a lot of issues. And maybe corporate culture is also something that needs to be redefined as more and more young people come into the workforce. We believe that traditional ways of working are the right ways of working. They perhaps served a particular time, the particular context. But with the context and time changing, I do believe that there is a need for organizational cultures to also go through change. Yeah, and even with startups, my experience is that when you speak to youngsters, they are driven as much by passion and, the wanting to solve real world problems. They are willing to sort of let some of the material things take a back seat while they pursue whatever they're dreaming to achieve. All of those are pretty strong. It's just that perhaps they need the guidance so that they can stay on track. Yeah, and to say one is better than the other, I'm not ready to. I think they serve different times, they serve different contexts. And one needs to adapt, as with everything else, to the changing needs. You know, every one of what you said was the characteristic of a Gen Z, could be looked at through the lens of traditional older people like us. And we could say that there is a negative to that as well. You stuck onto the company because you didn't have a choice. Yeah, you stuck onto a company because it was serving some particular purpose of yours. Yeah, you don't really work in an environment. You took all the politics at work because it was easier to be silent and put up with it than walk away from it. So I think anything can be looked at from multiple perspectives, and I guess one needs to just adapt with what is emerging and evolving in the world around us. And I'm not saying that what happened in the past is not right, or maybe it doesn't serve us as well because a lot of things have changed in the world around us. It still has a place. It has a in the same kinds of context, you can still use the methods that you used in a traditional environment. But I think in a changing kind of environment, you need to sort of have different methods, tools, approaches to deal with the situation. I mean, just this morning, I was telling somebody that, we never questioned our parents. We just did what we were asked to do. But with our own children, we allow them that space to question us. Very different in the way parenting is done. Just a simple thing that starts from home. And then you can't expect them to, the same people who are given the space to question you, to come to an office and listen to orders from a boss. It doesn't work. Yeah. So I would just say that things are changing. You're seeing more women at work. They don't want to take any more orders from others. Yeah, they believe they have a different style that they bring to the workplace. They bring a different value to the workplace. They want to be their authentic selves and not try and sort of follow some role that has been taught to them as being the model that they need to follow. So it is a different workplace. It's a different world that we are encountering. Don't know if I've answered your question, but just my thoughts.
This is probably a never-ending debate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Balaji, you have your mic open. Yes. Oh, two people. So Balaji first and then Rupak.
Oh, thank you. Good evening, Gangapriya. Thank you so much for sharing the experience from the heart with the real-time scenarios and examples. I'm part of GTBC program management. My question is about conflict management as a leader when we deal with the high-performing teams, when the opinions are stronger on both the sides, which creates turbulence when we get into a direction on a decision. So, how do you approach the conflicts as a leader in high-performing teams, within the high-performing teams?
I mean, I think it's different things for different kinds of conflicts. And, many times I feel, at least in my case, I need to be clear about, what is my point of view on some of these things. Many times I feel that as leaders, we can get carried away by one point of view or the other, which may not necessarily be your point of view. So what is it that you have as point of view, and what is it in relation to what you need to achieve and what outcomes you need to deliver is very important. At the same time, I also believe that having a POV but not being willing to shift from that point of view is also not a good thing. As you get more information, as you get more data, as you get more perspectives, I think you should be willing to sort of shift and modify your point of view as well. Yeah, and I think as a leader, it's very important to communicate that as well. Many times we don't communicate it clearly and we don't communicate it well and we don't communicate it often enough, many times, because it's not often that people will get what you're trying to say if you just say it once. You have to repeat it multiple times in ways that people will understand it. You may have to give examples, you may have to sort of help to bring it to life as it relates to the context that is in conflict. Yeah, I think that is the role that I see or the approach that I as a leader would take. Of course, spending some quiet time to think about, what am I hearing in all of this conflicting conversations? And where does it all sit for me is very important. So I find quiet time just going through what I'm hearing from different perspectives and also what am I missing in drawing the full picture. Those are all very important. Yeah, so it's a combination of, being clear about what you want to achieve. What is your point of view? How are you willing to sort of change that point of view with additional information that comes your way? And then making it clear to the teams as to what you're trying to achieve and the approach that you would like to take certainly helps to clear the air on and help to resolve the conflicts. It's not easy. I mean, I'm saying it in such a way, but I know it's a messy kind of discussion. And it will take a lot of back and forths and sometimes shifting from your original perspective to a different point of view. But if you stick on to where you have started from, it becomes less and less difficult to find a solution.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gangapriya and Shushmita, for a nice session. So my question is, like, I have a few discussion point. Like we were talking about Gen Z, right? So I think that we as a leader, as of now, we are most of us. I would say from myself also that we are traditional, right? So the respect, trust, and other things were the core values of our generation, right? But now Gen Z coming in the workplace, I think my opinion is they are not judgmental, correct? So they are basically data driven, right? So data driven decision making means they are more into the analytics and then logical thinking. But my opinion is whether we need to think about them or we need to think about our current workforce, whether they are uh, trained enough to handle these new generation, because the new generation will continue to come. Even the Gen Alpha is also now in the workplace. They are into the app development and other things. So the basic requirement for them and Gen Z is not there, which we used to have it. So my perspective is whether we need to think of changing the culture in a way that the our people, those who are already working in the organization, how they should deal the new generation. So I just wanted to have your opinion.
To be a conversation that damns our generation and sort of glorifies Gen Zs and Gen Alphas coming into it's not. I think every generation has its own pluses and minuses. yeah, it worked well in the times that they are meant to be. In some characteristics don't work. So I don't think I want to label everybody as fitting into a mold, and that mold being sort of a good or bad thing. Um, if there are if I mean, and I'm sure this is happening in all organizations, if you're seeing an influx of Gen Z and Gen Alpha into the workplace, I would say that one needs to be prepared to deal with the challenges that come with a different way of working. Yeah, and that would call for adaptation. It would call for better realization of what you're setting yourself up for, because a change in culture is not going to happen overnight. Yeah, and preparing people for the change is also important. A lot of times it can happen fairly organically and, without having to do much effort. I mean, and I guess looking at it as an opportunity to learn and grow may be the best approach in my mind, because, we all have something to learn from each other. And I think looking at it that way makes it easier for everybody.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anybody with a last question? Okay, great. Okay, all right. So, Gangapriya, we have a few quick rapid fire questions for you. Supposed to be fun, so don't worry
Never
about
good
the
at answering in a word.
Yeah, that's the challenge. So, let's, but yeah, whatever comes to your mind. And this is not going to be like a forever answer. It's just in this moment. So that probably hopefully
Okay,
makes it easy
hold
for
me to
you.
it. Yeah.
All right. So, is it lonely at the top?
Sometimes
How do you pause?
being being with myself.
What anchors you?
My home.
When you are down and out, who do you go to?
My close ones.
What's
And that
the
could be family and friends.
what's the one thing that no leader should do?
So no leader should do. Demean others.
What's the one thing that every leader should do?
Not stop learning.
If you were asked to make a law that everybody should follow mandatorily, what would that be?
What have you done differently that has helped you grow as a person?
Lovely. What would you be doing if you were not doing the job you're doing today?
Oh, so many things. Different things, not different days.
Nice. But is there a dream career that, you'd rather have had if no other constraints were there? Would there be?
No, at some time I think I should have been a doctor. At some time, I think I should have been an architect. Yeah, it's so many things.
Lovely. And what calms you?
I think yoga, being myself, just with myself, I think those are two things.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Gangapriya. It wasn't so hard for you to answer. You were quick with all your, you have everything in place. Nice. Thank you so much. And what is it that you want to leave us with? Is there anything specific that you want to share with us as you close? Something you want us to take back, remember?
Yeah. So for me, the more I think about leading without the power of authority, position, etc., is the point that I mentioned rather early during my during this session, which is that, we have a great way to democratize leadership. We do challenge our people to say, be leaders in your own area. Yeah. So you don't need a position, you don't need the stripes. Yeah, you don't need somebody calling you a particular designation to sort of be a leader. And I think that is really what I think we have a great opportunity for. If we look at leadership in a different, through a different lens. Everybody can be a leader, but they have to choose what is it that gives them that edge to be the leader, and how can they sustain that edge and continue to stay a leader. Yeah, and do they need to add more facets to that, to their style of leadership? So I think that's really what I would like to leave this conversation with.
That's a lovely thought for all of us to, I think, take back and think about, what do I want to be a leader in, and what edge do I have, and what facets do I want to add to it? And I think it connects with what you earlier said about a leader having to continuously learn. Thank you so much, Gangapriya, for this beautiful conversation. We really appreciated your time and for patiently answering all the questions that we had for you. Thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you, Shushmita, for making this good fun. And really, thank you for giving me this opportunity. Really enjoyed being here. And you made the whole thing so easy by setting